The tension inside the press gallery thickened long before Mark Carney stepped up to the podium. Reporters, analysts, and embassy staff had been whispering among themselves, aware that the moment carried the weight of a turning point. Carney, known for his measured cadence and steady economic intellect, was not a man who summoned the press without meticulous preparation. Yet today his expression held a rare edge, one that suggested patience had run its course. As camera shutters clicked in anticipation, he paused for a breath that seemed to quiet the entire room, then delivered the opening line that would dominate headlines across continents. Effective immediately, we will be implementing dollar-for-dollar retaliatory measures on U.S. goods. The phrase landed with the precision of a hammer. For months, American tariff expansions had targeted key Canadian exports: metals, agricultural produce, specialized manufacturing components, and emerging green tech hardware. What once appeared to be temporary political maneuvering evolved into a sustained economic squeeze, and Carney had signaled repeatedly that the time for restraint was finite. Observers expected a response, eventually. Few predicted one this swift, direct, and absolute. His decision echoed a deeper frustration within both his government and the industries affected. But the manner in which he articulated it revealed something more acute: a deliberate effort to demonstrate that economic diplomacy had limits and that sovereignty would not be bartered under pressure. He explained the new measures with clinical clarity. For every new dollar of tariffs imposed by the United States, Canada would match it, dollar for dollar, on equivalent categories of American goods. Steel for steel, produce for produce, manufactured parts for manufactured parts, and even the more sensitive domains of tech components and semiconductors. What distinguished this retaliation from prior trade disputes was not its scale but its structure. Rather than crafting a sweeping list of punitive duties, Carney designed a mirrored system, a reflection of U.S. policy, cast back upon its origin with mathematical precision. "We are not escalating," he said, "we are responding in kind, in equal measure. And with the same economic instruments being used against us." The decision rippled instantly through domestic markets. Traders who had been hedging for weeks against uncertainty finally received confirmation of the shift they had feared yet predicted. The dollar dipped momentarily, not from panic but from the recalibration that accompanies any abrupt policy adjustment. Manufacturing associations, many of which had pleaded privately for a firmer stance, issued cautiously optimistic statements. Farmers expressed a blend of relief and anxiety: relief that their grievances were acknowledged, and anxiety about potential retaliation for retaliation consequences that often characterize prolonged trade clashes. Yet the public sentiment, at least in the early hours, appeared to tilt toward support. Canadians had watched industries absorb blows they did not provoke. Carney's action, though bold, was perceived by many as overdue. Across the border, the U.S. response machine roared to life. Commentators alternated between dismissiveness and alarm, depending on their political alignment. Some hailed Carney's move as mere theatrics, while others warned that Canada's precision retaliation could cause measurable disruptions, especially in sectors dependent on cross-border supply chains. American manufacturers in the Midwestern corridor, long tied to Canadian metals and component imports, braced themselves for the dual shock of disrupted flow and heightened costs. Economists on late-night panels debated whether Washington underestimated Canada's willingness to entrench itself in a long-term economic standoff. Back in the press room, Carney fielded questions with a disciplined firmness that left little room for reinterpretation. His tone conveyed neither triumph nor anger, only resolve. When asked whether he feared the retaliation might provoke further escalation, he countered that continued inaction posed the greater risk. "A relationship built on partnership is stable," he said. "A relationship where one partner tests the other's thresholds is unstable. Today, we restore equilibrium by making clear that imbalances carry consequences." Each sentence reinforced the dual image he projected: technocrat and statesman, calculating yet principled. Carney also stressed that diplomatic channels remained fully open. The retaliatory measures, he emphasized, were not a severing of cooperation but a defense of it. In his view, allowing disproportionate tariffs to persist would normalize economic coercion. By pushing back firmly now, he argued, the long-term integrity of the bilateral relationship would strengthen. "We do not seek conflict," he repeated. "We seek fairness." His words were echoed by a deliberate backing of data, trade deficits, import volumes, comparative tariff impacts, and the cascading consequences on industries that form the backbone of both economies. It was a reminder to all watching that economic disputes were not abstractions, they were lived realities for millions of workers, business owners, and households. Political analysts quickly dissected another layer of significance, the personal authority Carney brought to the decision. Unlike many leaders who entered politics through traditional party pathways, his international economic credentials granted him a level of technical credibility rarely seen in high-stakes trade disputes. Former colleagues from central banking circles suggested that Carney would not have announced retaliation without running through countless projections, stress scenarios, and diplomatic outcome models. His approach was neither impulsive nor symbolic. It was strategic, calculated, and grounded in economic orthodoxy. A senior official, speaking off record, noted that he waited until the numbers left him no other choice. Global markets watched with unease as the announcement reverberated beyond North America. Europe, already navigating its own tensions with the United States over industrial subsidies and digital tariffs, saw Carney's decision as a precedent of middle power assertiveness. Asian markets, particularly in countries where manufacturing chains interlink with U.S. and Canadian suppliers, prepared for possible fluctuations in commodity prices and logistics elasticity. The dispute was not merely bilateral, its consequences seeped into the arteries of global trade. As evening settled, the political debate grew more heated. Opposition leaders questioned whether Carney's response risked provoking unnecessary instability, while supporters countered that failure to act would signal weakness. Business councils urged both nations to resume negotiations immediately. Meanwhile, public squares, town halls, and digital forums filled with reactions that ranged from patriotic approval to apprehension about consumer price increases. Yet even critics acknowledged that Carney had executed the announcement with an authoritative composure that projected confidence rather than chaos. Behind closed doors, diplomats began their frantic work, drafting counteroffers, testing conciliatory language, and seeking space for de-escalation. The path forward depended not only on economic rationale but on political willingness to recalibrate. Carney, aware of the complexity ahead, framed his decision as a defensive measure rather than an ideological shift. His government, he insisted, remained committed to continental cooperation but not at the cost of enduring unilateral constraints. "Our intent," he said in his closing line, "is restoration, not rupture."